Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Afia Sports Preview Square. This is the way we end, well, not end anyway, but begin the weekend. This wonderful day. Today is the 20th day of the month of March, the day of our Lord 2026. Welcome to the show, guys. I hope you're preparing to spend this weekend responsibly, to celebrate this weekend responsibly, because remember, especially if you're either Christian or Muslim, this is the Ramadan period that is over for the Muslim faithful out there. So it's a time of reflection and celebration since the Ramadan has ended. Then for the Christian faithful, Lent is still ongoing. So please remember, be responsible during your celebrations. Welcome, guys. The frequencies are still the same on the Afia Sports Preview Square, channel 254 DSTV, channel 748 Free TV, and channel 17 Go TV. It's great to be here once again this wonderful weekend. And my name is Sisi Emechebe. I'm also known as Sisi the Rabbi. I'm not doing this alone. I have the man that is called him, that is called the talisman, that is called KP himself.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm happy that you called me all those names finally. I don't have to remind you, but it's a pleasure to be here as always.
Oh yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. And we this is a moment of, it's a defining moment for many people who are sports enthusiasts and aficionados who are looking forward to seeing what's going to happen this weekend, because we have one or two finals that are going to come up very, very soon, like this weekend. We'll get to that in a bit. Then also some outrageous news that we'll need to touch and look at very well, because the truth of the matter is that sometimes people like to take others for granted and take them for a ride, forgetting that people are meant to make their own points clear. You do not get victimized in sports. I know some people think you're assuming where I'm heading to. Yeah, your assumption may be correct, because we'll get there in a bit. Right, we're going to start with the headline news. And in the headline news, first of all, Npfl. From this part of the world here in Enugu State, that is the eastern capital of Nigeria, where Rangers International reigns supreme. It's a bit of good news. It's mixed feelings for many, of course, who do not support Rangers. But the reality on ground is this. The ground is now level. That's the first headline news. I'm referring to the fact that Rivers United, who are leading the log in the Npfl, the Nigerian Premier Football League, lost their last outstanding game to Niger Tornadoes 1-0. Now, losing that game 1-0 put them level with every other team in the Npfl in terms of games played. So there are no points in hand, no games in hand. So what that means is that Rivers United, right now as we speak, have played 30 games like every other team, and they have 52 points, as opposed to the Flying Antelopes, who have 51 points, just a point behind them with 7 games to go. That is massive indeed. That result was from Bako Kontagora Stadium there in Minna. And Rivers United lost. They also lost a man in that game there to a second yellow card, a red card. In January, got that second yellow card. And as a result, the table is looking this way right now. You have Rivers United on top, like I said, ahead with 52 points, just ahead of Rangers International, who have 51 points. And then the rest, time will not permit me to give you the rest of the table. By tomorrow, we'll do that. But it's a very, very tight table indeed. There's not more than 2 points separating one side from the other. So this is going down to the wire. That's the first bit of news that we're giving you in the headline. Then the second headline news, well, this is not news. And most Nigerians, you ask, are indifferent regarding this news. What is the news? FIFA, the general governing body of football in the world, has denied the petition or rejected the petition of the Nigerian Football Federation regarding the expulsion of DR Congo from the World Cup qualifiers that are taking place this in just a couple of weeks, actually in a week's time in Mexico, to determine which final teams, which last 6 teams will go to the World Cup in the United States of America, Mexico, and Canada. It must be said, remember that the players, a good number of the players for DR Congo had dual citizenship, so they had 2 passports, and that is against Congolese law, but it's not against FIFA's laws. Now, the problem there is that the NFF showed their anyhowness by stepping in and then filing the petition long after the window had closed. You're meant to file a petition challenging the eligibility of players 24 hours after the game in question, which was that continental playoff final game between Nigeria and DR Congo, which ended 1-1 in regulation time, and then, of course, extra time, and then 4-3 on penalties in favor of the Congolese. So Nigeria, NFF submitted the petition 2 full weeks after that. If that is not anyhowness, I wonder what else is. So that's the second bit of news there. Then the third bit of news is quite sad. We are still remembering the life and times of one of the legends of football here in Nigeria, the youngest medal winner in the African Cup of Nations winning squad, triumphant squad of Nigeria, the Green Eagles, then known as the Green Eagles, that won the title, beating Algeria there in Lagos, 3-0 in that final under the tutelage of Otto Gloria, the 63-year-old Brazilian coach. Now, a certain 17-year-old, going on 18-year-old player was there named Henry Nwosu. He was the youngest player on that squad, on the roster. And he just passed away last week. Henry Nwosu passed away last week at the age of 62, going on 63. He had a stellar career, actually played for a good number of sides there. He also managed, he was also an assistant coach in many ways. He's even the only one that he scored the only goal of Nigeria in the Olympics in 1980. He scored the only goal there. And he was one of the assistant coaches of the late coach Adeboye Festus Onigbinde in the 2002 World Cup at Korea, Japan, that Nigeria was involved in. Also, he was an assistant coach to Samson Siasia in the 2008 Olympic Games, where Nigeria finished with a silver medal, losing to Lionel Messi and Angel Di Maria's Argentina. So may his gentle soul rest in perfect peace. Henry Nwosu will be remembered forever, hopefully. Now we'll go straight to the news, the main news on this show. We're not touching the Npfl today. That will be from tomorrow, because a list has come out and we'll need to look at that list and examine the list, the merits of that list. What list am I referring to? A 23-man list has been released by the Super Eagles gaffer, Eric Sekuchel, and this list is for the list of the players that will prosecute games, friendly games, because of course Nigeria is not involved in the continent, in the playoffs. So yeah, you can go and play off in the friendlies, no problem. So Nigeria will be locking horns with Iran and Jordan, and that's going to take place in Oman. That's the country that will host these games. Now, that squad was called up there, a 23-man squad, and that 23-man squad has the goalkeepers, 3 goalkeepers. Conspicuously absent from that list is Stanley Nwabali, the first choice goalkeeper, who used to play for Chippa United, but he's now a free agent. Maybe that was part of what informed the decision of Eric Sekuchel to choose other goalkeepers. So Marco Okoye has returned to the lineup there, the Udinese goalkeeper. Then Adele Adebayo of Volos FC is there too. And then, of course, a very familiar name in Francis Uzoho of Omonia FC of Cyprus. Then the defenders, we have the Calvin Bassey of Fulham FC, England, Oluwa Semilogo Ajayi, that's Semi Ajayi of Hull City, then Bright Osai Samuel of Birmingham City, Bruno Nyemechi of Olympiacos, Zaidu Sanusi of FC Porto, Igo Obu of Slavia Prague, then Emmanuel Fernandez having his debut for Glasgow Rangers, the defender in Glasgow Rangers. Then the midfielders, of course, some regulars are there. Alex Iwobi, of course, he is a player for Fulham with Fulham FC, Frank Onyeka with Coventry FC, Wilfred Ndidi with Besiktas FC, Rafael Onyedika with Club Brugge, and then Fisayo Delibashiru of SS Lazio. Then we have the forwards, Ademola Lookman of Atletico de Madrid, Samuel Chukwueze of Fulham FC, Simon Moses of Paris FC, Chidera Ejuke of Sevilla FC, Paul Onuachu, who's been on fire in the Turkish Superliga, of Trabzonspor AS, Ako Adams of Sevilla FC, and then Philip Otele of Hamburger FC. And then we've forgotten there's one more person there. That's Collins Girasor of KRC Genk. These are players conspicuously absent, like we mentioned, in the goalkeeping department, is Salim Nwabali. But another name that's missing that everybody has seen is Agbabola himself, and that's Victor Osimhen. Yeah. Looking at this list very well, what's your take on this list? Who deserve to enter this list and why? And then which names are missing that should have been there? And then again, I don't know if I should play devil's advocate in this, but let's just do that. These friendlies, I won't really call them meaningless friendlies. Yeah. Just that they're not competitive. And considering the fact, many would say, Nigeria is no longer going to the World Cup. So since Nigeria is not going to the World Cup, why don't you just give the home-based players a chance to mix up things a little bit more? Let it not just be tokenism. Let some home-based players play this so that we can build up some momentum ahead of the next tournaments, which will be the AFCON and then the World Cup qualifying campaign for 2030.
Yeah, I'll go bit by bit to just unpack from the squad. As you mentioned earlier, we didn't see Stanley Wabali on the list, which is not much of a surprise. He doesn't have a club, and I think that's a good decision from Npfl, just to make sure that you deserve your call-up. Nobody is just there based on name or whatever or reputation. So I like that decision. I'm glad to see Emmanuel Fernandez because he has been playing relatively very well this season for Glasgow Rangers, not Enugu Rangers, obviously. So I think that was a good call-up, and I'm very, very surprised not to see Tolu.
After his exploits with
Wolves. I think he before the AFCON, I don't think he was performing so well for Wolves, but I think he has played himself into the Nigerian team. He should have been able to play himself into the Nigerian team. And I'm very disappointed that he wasn't able to get a call-up. And I think he provides something different. I know all our strikers are relatively very tall, but his own hold-up play, what he can, when you can see with Wolves most of the time, when they are, just trying to get an equalizer, trying to get a goal back in the game, he's very, very handy. So I would have loved to see him there. And somebody I'm surprised to see, very, very surprised, Simon Moses in 2026. I don't want to throw much comment on that, but in 2026, in the great year 2026, I'm very surprised to see Simon Moses in the Nigerian, squad. No matter the competition, even if it's international friendlies, I think he has been a very good servant to the Nigerian team. Very, very, very great servant. He has played his part, but I think his time here is up. I don't want to be harsh because he may be watching. I just want to say, but I think it's very, very harsh on some other players not to be in there and for him to get the score. And then what you said about the home-based players, I have my thoughts on that.
Okay.
And but we have to answer the question first: are they good enough to be there? With some coaches in the past, I think Finidi George, gave a good number of homegrown players an opportunity to play, and you could see, Nigerians have been crying out, we need to play homegrown players, we want to see them in the squad. And then when they gave them the opportunity, they didn't live up to what we expected. So there's that. But I think there are some players that have, that have stood out in the league, like Chidozie Iwundu. I think he has really played well this season. I think he's one that could be added to the midfield and to the team, to the Nigerian team. So there's a lot of what you could have changed. But at the end of the day, we're not the ones being paid $100,000 a month to pick the squad. So, I think
you have to bring
that up. So I think we just have to sit back and watch. But going to Victor Osimhen, yes, I know many people say he's injured, but the squad was dropped before the injury. So I was surprised to see that he wasn't there. He wasn't picked in the squad. Probably wanted to just get a look at other strikers to play because Osimhen is always going to play. And maybe there was a talk with Galatasaray on, there's always discussion between medical teams. Then he picked up the unfortunate injury. We don't know how long he's going to be out for because he's meant to have a surgery now, probably on the arm. And then we're going to see how it's going to go. But this is my thought on the squad. I'm happy to see Maduka Okoye. I wanted to see Tolu. I don't like the fact that I'm seeing Simon Moses. And I think that's just the summary of where I have, differences with the head coach.
Okay, so while I'm trying to resist the temptation to drag you to wear the same trouser with Moses Simon, I think it's safe to rephrase this just to say that what you're implying is that Moses Simon and Ahmed Musa are probably in the same WhatsApp group.
Yes, I think that's what I'm saying.
I think it's safe to say that.
Both of them have been very good servants to the Nigerian team, but I'm seeing them now. When I saw his name on the sky, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, we should have moved on by now. And it's a player I really loved. When he played 2018, that period 2019, he was doing really well. But I think the national team should have passed that phase by now. And that's what I'm saying. So if you're watching Simon Moses, we still love you, but we don't see you in the camp.
Okay, so in the words of, using my words, rephrasing the words of KP here, or rephrasing the words of Talisman, Moses Simon, give youth a chance. Don't respond to another call-up for now so that there can be space for others to perform. I'm going to say what he's not saying, and I'm not I'm not trying to echo his sentiments. I'm simply trying to interpret what he's finding difficult to say. So, I mean, make of that what you will.
So if I could ask, what are your sentiments?
I have no opinion in this matter. I'm just a presenter. So
No problem.
Okay, so having said that, we'll go to something that's a bit more sober. It would have been funny if we were not pathetic, but still, it is our job to address it. Recently, this was last week, CAF, the umbrella body of African football, formally granted the African Cup of Nations title that they initially awarded to the Teranga Lions of Senegal on the 18th of January 2026. They formally, exactly 2 months after awarding that title, on the 18th of March, they reversed that decision after the complaint and petition from Morocco, the Moroccan Royal Moroccan Football Federation, and then handed the trophy over to Morocco. That's what they did 2 months after the final. Now, what they did to do that was invoke Articles 82 and 84. Let me explain it to you. What does Article 82 of the CAF AFCON regulation state? It states that any team that withdraws, fails to appear, refuses to play, or leaves the pitch before the final whistle without the referee's authorization loses the match and is eliminated from the competition. So that rule, alongside Article 84, which I'll explain in a bit, is what resulted in Senegal being stripped of the 2025 AFCON title a full 2 months after they won the title, and everybody to have moved on. Now, the key aspects of Article 82 state that point to the issue of violation, first of all. That's leaving the field before full time without permission or refusing to play. Then the consequence is that the team is considered the loser and is eliminated. Then the application, we saw that it was applied to the 2025 AFCON final after a 12-minute stoppage that was caused by Senegal, the Senegalese players and their manager, Malik Thiaw, leaving the pitch. Of course, not all the players left the pitch. The talisman himself, the captain, the legend, Sadio Mane, remained on the pitch to try to resolve issues. And then after due consultation with some legends, including El Hadji Diouf, he then decided to go back to the dressing room and then talk to the players and summon them to come back and continue the match, which the referee continued. I'll get to that in a bit. Now, the complementary rule, because Article 82 and Article 84 worked hand in hand to get this result. Because what happened is that Article 84 of this same laws states that a violation of Article 82 results in a formal 3-0 loss, which is a forfeit. It's more like a walkover. You know, normally whenever there's a walkover, there's a 3-0 loss given to the team that was walked over for not appearing. So that means what was once a 1-0 win for Senegal has now become a 3-0 loss to Senegal and a 3-0 win to Morocco. A full 2 months after that. Now, this is the issue that is triggering everybody. Rules are rules, laws are laws, and we are not in any way trying to say that rules must be broken. No, we must follow rules. But if you're going to follow rules, follow them judiciously, follow them as and when due. I'm not a lawyer, but I know about something called statutes of limitations, and that could apply in this case, if my memory serves me right, which might give them a very strong case, that is the Senegalese, when they go to CAS, because they have already gone to CAS. Now, Article 82, in a nutshell, is talking about the fact that players who withdraw, a team withdraws, fails to appear, refuses to play, or leaves the pitch before the final whistle without the referee's authorization, that from that point that the team does that, that team is disqualified. But in this case, after those 12 minutes, the Senegalese players, the Teranga Lions of Senegal, because they were aggrieved, that's what led to them going off. Of course, 2 wrongs can't make a right. Legally, they are not meant to have gone off, but they were pushed to the wall to go off. That's what I'm trying to say.
We can understand that.
We can understand the grievances that led them to get off the pitch, which was wrong in itself. However, because of the shenanigans of the Moroccans, I don't want to talk about that for now. But they were then summoned. The referee was there. The referee is the final, has the final say. And even Article 5.2 states that whatever decision the referee makes on the field of play cannot be overturned by anybody at all. Nobody, because the referee is a representative of the football authorities, whether the FA that's involved or CAF or whichever body is organizing that tournament. So anytime you try to overrule what the referee has done, you're undermining yourself.
Yeah.
So that's why Article 5.2 is there. Now, the point is this. The referee was there and they came back to the pitch. A penalty was still waiting for the Moroccans to play. The Moroccans welcomed them back. So, okay, fine, now let's take our penalty. And then the Panenka attempt became a pancake, like I always say. That's Brahim Diaz's attempt was then saved by Edouard Mendy. And eventually Senegal won that and the match stretched on and then final whistle blew. And then the Moroccans stepped up. They collected their silver medals. Then the Senegalese stepped up, collected their gold medals. They went back, did their bus parade, did everything, and everything was over. Only for 2 months later. So we thought. Only for 2 months later for them to come back, CAF, and then out of the blues, do this. If there was any time for Article 82 to be invoked, and of course Article 84, it was not even meant to be full-time. It was meant to be invoked at that point that the players left the pitch. So make this make sense to me. Please, no, I need it. I'm trying to understand.
That's an impossible job.
CAF never ceases to amaze me. Right now, I can just imagine. No, what makes me cringe is I'm just visualizing Jurgen Klopp and Jerry Carragher probably wearing their Scouse pajamas and having fun and mocking and saying we're vindicated because one of them called CAF a little tournament. That is Jurgen Klopp. And then, of course, Jamie Carragher, his comments regarding CAF... His comments regarding CAF were so ridiculous, I can't even remember them. I didn't do them the justice of remembering. So I want you to try, make an attempt at least to make this make sense. Have CAF covered themselves in glory by doing this rubbish?
I called it rubbish. They have covered themselves in glory. Well, what I'll say is, no matter how sympathetic to CAF you want to be, you can't make a case for what has happened. I think it's a big shame to African football in general. When I saw the news, I was stunned for a few minutes. I was like, I don't understand what's going on. Everybody was reposting, resharing. I was like, this can't be real, because the level of shame. The final took place on January 18th. They come out with a verdict on March 18th. Come on, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Exactly, what are we doing here? And, looking back at it, the fact that, what Senegal did was wrong. Yeah, I think we can agree it was wrong, but, many people in the world out there, even Europeans, will say they would have loved for their team to do that sometimes when the referee is clearly... Because we cannot forget the backdrop of the tournament. When all the referees were... let's not, cover it or hide mouths, figuratively speaking. They were supporting Morocco. They were trying to do everything possible to get Morocco over the line.
They were under pressure to give Morocco a softer land.
Yes, they give them. So we saw it in all the games Morocco played. So let's not mince words. And then we saw it playing out in the final. Disallowed goal, soft penalty, back to back within a few minutes. So the players were aggrieved. They walked off the pitch. Maybe wrong decision. They went into the dressing room. Some players were taking selfies in the dressing room at that time. Now, Sadio Mane, standing in, player of common sense, says, okay, let's come back, let's play our game. Now the referee continues the game. He doesn't say the game is forfeited at that point. He never said that throughout the course of the match. And if you remember very well, the added time was put in place for the time that was missed.
Yes.
That is very, very important. Mm-hmm. He added those minutes back into the game, even before...
So he more or less redeemed the minutes.
Exactly.
So it's as if nothing happened.
Nothing happened. There was just like maybe the referee saying, there was just a case that we couldn't control at the moment, but we have it under control now. Let the game continue. And that's what happened. So CAF coming out to say now that we're going to revoke that. Who are they deceiving? I don't think anybody's going to forget the Panenka miss from Brahim Diaz ever. I don't think anybody's ever going to forget the goal from Diop to win the AFCON for Senegal. So those things remain in the memory. And one thing that we all know now, they have gone to the Court of Arbitration for Sports, that's Senegal, to plead their case. And I'm very positive that they're going to revoke what CAF has said. History has even shown us a number of times when CAF has gone against, have made some rulings. The CS always...
Yes, like typical examples, with Casablanca against Esperance de Tunis.
Yeah.
So with Casablanca, walked off the pitch. They did that. They walked off the pitch. Esperance de Tunis were awarded that was the CAF Champions League. I think CAF Champions League final also. They were awarded it only for CAF to go and then reverse that decision. Then Esperance de Tunis had to appeal to CAS. CAS then overturned the decision to back to his original. So it's just a case of CAF making a mess of themselves and making a mockery of African football.
They have covered the tournament in a lot of shame. I think that was a very good tournament that we watched. I think the football on display showed that African football is moving in the right direction. But this is what everyone's going to remember. That, you can go to a tournament, you win a game, maybe 6 months later they're going to tell you that you lost that game. Just, come on, what are we doing here? Maybe probably before this World Cup starts, they're going to tell us that Argentina are not the legitimate winners of the last World Cup and they're going to give it to France. Maybe that's what we're doing here now. Come on, what's going on? So I think CAF have caught themselves in disgrace, and it's very, very sad to see. Jamie Carragher must be laughing. That's one of the things I'm saying. Like, he must be laughing. And I remember immediately that came out, he posted a meme where he was just smiling. He just saying, I was right, you see. And you can't even blame him, because this is just ridiculous. It's really, really ridiculous. And we hope that we never see something like this again, because what many people seem to believe, I don't want to comment on that right now, is that, CAF have been trying for different months, years, to just appease Morocco, because Morocco has been hosting a lot of tournaments for the continent, and they just want to say, we really appreciate what you're doing, using your facilities and all. But this is not the way to go about it. This is shameful, this is shambolic, and it's just a disgrace.
Okay, so just in 1 minute before we go to the next issues, God forbid, and I'm going to say this with my full chest, God forbid Senegal do not get a favorable verdict from CAS. What do you think is going to be the ripple effect? How is this going to affect the perception of African football generally? Do you see something like a massive boycott, for instance, from different teams? If they are going to boycott, what would motivate them to boycott that is AFCON totally?
Yeah, one thing I'll say is, even if Senegal get a favorable ruling, it's still a shame, because the back and forth that have gone on for a title, I don't think we've ever seen this before, like to this level and to this degree. So it's going to be a shame regardless. God forbid, as you said, they say, Morocco are the rightful winners, return the trophy, return the medals. I wouldn't like to say a boycott. That's the first thing I'm going to say. But what I think the players should do is, across all nations, Nigeria included, I think players have to make a stand and say, football is played on the pitch. It's not played in the CEO's office. It's not played where they're having the meetings. It's played on the pitch. The rightful winners are Senegal. And maybe, I said I wouldn't like to say a boycott, but maybe that's what needs to be done. Say, we're not going to play any tournament, and then let's see what CAF is going to do. Because you're just saying that, maybe the next AFCON taking place in Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, whatever, they go there, and then CAF says one of them has to win, and Nigeria gets to the final, and this happens to Nigeria. What are we going to do then? We're going to start crying then. I think now is the time. If the Court of Arbitration for Sports doesn't give a favorable verdict, I think that's when things are going to escalate. But right now, I believe they're going to do the right thing. They're always level-headed there. They usually give the deserved verdict, and whatever they give there, I think we just have to trust the process. But I know it's going to turn out well.
I really hope so, even though hope, like I always say, is not a business strategy, because we've seen how chummy, no, this is an allegation, but we've seen how chummy Dr. Patrice Motsepe and Gianni Infantino have been in recent years. I'm not alluding to anything, but, I always like to use my tongue to count my teeth. We'll be right back after this short timeout. We have other things to talk about, like a final that's going to be coming up this Sunday. Who is going to win that final, which is the curtain raiser, or rather, let's say, the first major blockbuster of finals in the season? Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this. Back to the Afia Sports Preview Square on Afia TV. The frequencies are still channel 254 DSTV, channel 17 Go TV, and channel 748 Free TV. Welcome back, guys. So we are done with Nigeria for now. We're done with Africa, the African continent, and then the shenanigans of CAF for now. We'll still get back to that in a bit because it's a conversation that will still continue because it is so ludicrous that it has to be discussed on a regular basis. But now we're in Europe and we're looking at one of the toughest leagues in European football, and that is the English Premier League. Round 31, match week 31 fixtures kick off tonight. Bournemouth will be hosting Manchester United at the Vitality Stadium in the south coast of England. That's going to be a very important one for Man United to continue building up momentum to finish in the Champions League places. They are third on the log and they really want to remain there at the very least. So Bournemouth will be their obstacle, but let's see how that plays out. Saturday fixtures will have Brighton and Hove Albion hosting Liverpool at the Amex. The Amex, that's going to be the first match by 1:30 p.m. So Brighton and Hove Albion hosting Liverpool at the Amex. Then Fulham will be hosting Burnley by 4 p.m. and that's going to be at Craven Cottage in southwest London. Then we're going to have Everton hosting Chelsea. That match is going to be at the Hill Dickinson Stadium, and that's going to be by 6:30 p.m. at Merseyside. Then the late kickoff for Saturday will be by 9 p.m. where Leeds United will host Brentford at Elland Road in Yorkshire. Then we're going to have Sunday games. Sunday will begin by 1 p.m. where you're going to have one of the most anticipated derbies in English football. It's not been very regular because of the absence of one of the teams in recent years. Now we're talking about the Tyne-Wear derby in the northeast of England. Tyneside clashes Wearside, where Newcastle United will host Sunderland at St. James's Park in Tyneside. Of course, Eddie Howe will be trying to get revenge against Regis Lebris after that loss that they suffered at the Stadium of Light in Wearside in the first leg of the game. Then Nottingham Forest will be traveling to Tottenham Hotspur, to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in North London. That's two sides that are struggling above the relegation zone, trying to keep their heads above the relegation quagmire, but that's going to be Tottenham's home advantage. But home advantage is not always an advantage for Tottenham because they have won only 2 home league games. It doesn't look very well for them unless they change the narrative in this game. Then the other game by the same time, which is going to be 3:15, is Aston Villa hosting West Ham United at Villa Park in the Midlands. That's the claret and blue derby because both sides wear claret and blue. That's what they wear, their main uniforms. Of course, the game between Manchester City and Crystal Palace has been postponed. The time, it's not yet fixed. That's a round 31 game. It's not yet been fixed. The reason it's been postponed is because Manchester City will be in action that weekend, this Sunday. Arsenal will be playing against Manchester City, and that's going to be at the Carabao Cup final at Wembley. Arsenal have already played their match week 31 game. They did that a while ago in that 2-2 draw against Wolverhampton Wanderers at Molineux. So what that means is that this is the first opportunity for one of these two sides to win a trophy, the first trophy of the season. There are 2 domestic cups in English football, in the top flight in English football. You have the English FA Cup, which is the Superior Cup, and then the EFL Cup or the Carabao Cup, the English League Cup. So the League Cup is the first that is up for grabs. And one thing we've come to realize about the League Cup over the years is that the winners of the League Cup, especially if they are in a title race, have a psychological edge over their rivals if they face their rival. That's exactly what's happening here. First meets second. The apprentice meets the master in the final, and that's going to be a major blockbuster. Does Arsenal have what it takes to end their 6-year hoodoo? Because the last time Arsenal won a title, Mikel Arteta won his first title, and that was in a COVID year in 2020. Wembley was the final there. They beat Chelsea in the FA Cup, and en route to getting that, they beat Manchester City 2-0. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang grabbed the brace in that game, 2-0 in the semi-finals. So let's unwrap this and unwind this. Arsenal are 9 points clear in the Premier League. They have been the most consistent side in the Premier League this season. Man City have struggled a bit, and when you talk about this word bounce back ability, it's not a word, it's just a word that we create to show the resilience and ability to bounce back from adversity. Arsenal have shown that bounce back ability more than any other team. Arsenal have suffered 3 defeats in all competitions, all in the Premier League. And those defeats were narrow defeats by 1 goal. A Dominic Szoboszlai free kick was what settled affairs at Anfield. Yeah. Then a Buenda goal after a goal mouth scramble settled affairs at Villa Park 2-1. Then a Cunha goal, yes. Yeah, that's what you know. There's an Atologo dancer. So Cunha goal, that was what settled the affair and all that. So it's always been a very, very tight thing. Well, if you check Arsenal's consistency in between those losses, after the loss to Liverpool, Arsenal went on an 18-game unbeaten run because they lost in September. Then they lost on the 6th of December to Aston Villa. Then went on a 12-game win unbeaten run. They lost to Manchester United on the 25th of January. Then they are currently on a 14-game unbeaten run. These are statistics that Manchester City cannot boast of this season. And it's worrisome. Man City have not been, even though they strengthened, I think they strengthened the most in January, in the January transfer window, by spending big, over £100 million on Antoine Semenyo from Bournemouth and then on McGahey from Crystal Palace to shore up the offensive side and the defensive side. Still, most people who would want to give, I'm just saying this because it's what's playing out. Most people who would want to give Manchester City the massive advantage here are probably still living in a bit of denial. That's the truth.
Yeah.
So, but this is a final. And Pep Guardiola, well, I don't want to say that he's a master in finals because recently he has not been a master in finals. So how do you want to really explain this? What's going to go down on Sunday?
You know, a lot of tactics are going to be very important. So, all those things are good. Motivating the players are wonderful. But there's something I've noticed is that when it comes to Wembley, there's something about Wembley that all those things go away. I don't know whether it's the pitch, I don't know the atmosphere, what happens. But when it's time to play a final in Wembley, the better side doesn't always win. That's just the truth because it's something that's just about the aura of Wembley. Like anybody can win. When it comes to Wembley, Man City can, let's say, even the seasons they may be targeting a quadruple and whatever, and maybe Manchester United sitting 8th in the table. I always feel we can win them at Wembley. That's just
it has happened.
Yeah, I just feel it's Wembley. So all those things are important. Getting the right players, getting a mix. Guardiola commented earlier today saying in goal is going to be Trafford that's going to start this game. Very interesting. I don't know if Kepa is going to start for Arsenal or Raya, but I think Raya should start because of those amazing saves that he is capable of making. But that's by the way. I think the coaches now have to earn their money. Make the important decisions. And as you mentioned earlier, the psychology of winning this game, what it can produce in the title race in the long haul. Because Man City, this season, the truth of the matter is they have huffed and puffed. They have been hot, they have been cold, they have been there, they have not been there. The game against Madrid in midweek, they actually played well. They played well. They couldn't take their chances.
And the red card.
Yes, getting the red card earlier because they created a lot of chances. And they're capable of doing that. That's something a Pep Guardiola team will always do. They will create chances. It's now whether they can take the chances or not. And I think this match is one of the most 50-50 matches I've seen in history. I can't even... Man City Arsenal at a neutral ground. I can't swing either way. The only time they've played this season, they played at 1-1. So it's just one match that I can't wait to start watching. I don't think there are going to be many goals there, but I think it's going to be a very, very entertaining match. And, there is a bit of tension between the two sides. Yes. Every time they play, and you hear the comments some players make, Bernardo Silva, Erling Haaland, Gabriel, they're always, this is the derby of the Premier League right now. This is El Clasico. And it's going to be lovely to see. I'll love to be there. If I won't be there, I'll be in my palace, watching the game front row. And I think it's going to be an entertaining one. I hope you don't ask me predictions because I ain't going to be there.
Well, that's not possible. I'm getting to that. Okay, but first, let's talk about one or two things from both sides. Yeah. Let me start with Manchester City before I move to Arsenal. Pep Guardiola knows, you've pointed out the issue of psychological boosts. Pep Guardiola knows that, because truth be told, contrary to what some people want to believe, an Arsenal defeat would be seen as an upset to many.
Yeah.
Because of Arsenal's consistency.
I see.
Now there are others who would see
I can see what you mean.
Yeah, it's because of their consistency.
Others will see it as the usual butlers.
Yes. That's the reality on ground. So it just depends on which side of the fence one is sitting on. And so Pep Guardiola has a big opportunity to to test the mentality of his protege and very, very good friend, Mikel Arteta, assuming Arsenal lose that final. And considering the fact that they're going to meet on the 19th of April at the Etihad Stadium, which will be Manchester City's ground.
Could be only 6 points by then.
It could be. It's very, very possible. It could be 6 points. So a lot is playing here. Psychological edges and none. Then, of course, momentum swinging here and there. So that's one side. But on the other side, on the Arsenal side, first of all, there's the issue of vengeance. Because one thing we know about Arsenal players, which they picked from their manager, is that they are very vindictive. Arsenal have turned to vindictive players. They always want to pay back in their own coin. Pay back in their own coin, prove a point. They do that. The last time Arsenal, even though Arteta was not there, he was in the dugout alongside Pep Guardiola. But the last time Arsenal, this fixture came up in England was 8 years ago, 2018. Arsene Wenger was still the manager, his last season actually. And then they lost 3-0 to Pep Guardiola's side in the final. So there's going to be an attempt to right the wrongs from by Arteta, this time against his former boss. And then again, there is the Eze factor. Eberechi Eze, no, really, because in the absence, I don't know why you're laughing. In the absence, I'm coming. In the absence of Martin Odegaard, the major creative hub in that midfield has been Eberechi Eze. Now, Eberechi Eze has a psychological edge in that the last two visits to Wembley facing Manchester City, he's come out victorious. FA Cup final, Community Shield. So, how important will psychology play in this, considering these points I raised?
Okay, don't mind me laughing when you mentioned this. He's a lovely player. It's a player I love so much. But you see Arsenal fans now see him almost as the main man of some sorts, which I may disagree with. But very, very important because I feel he's a maverick.
Yes.
He's one player that can pull anything out of his heart that you may not have expected.
Anything like a goal. That goal.
Yeah.
That goal. Let's not talk about
that's just it. And I think Man City may not be able to cope with him. Now, I would have preferred Martin Odegaard start this particular game.
If he's fit.
Yeah, if he's fit, because I think Eze is he does a lot of things off the cuff. I think when you see Eze play, you see he tries a lot of things, which is amazing to see most of the time because you see one of them may come off. But Odegaard brings more control to the Arsenal game and what have you. But I think if Eze is the player starting, I think that's a big advantage for Arsenal because he can just score a screamer from outside the box, something you don't see coming. Let it all work out. You just fire it into the top corner, and it will be nice to see. But if I was the coach in this particular game, if Odegaard is fit by then, I may just lean towards Odegaard, maybe off the bench because he has not played all these games in the last few weeks. But Odegaard, that control against Man City, because Eze loses the ball a lot of times when he's trying, a lot of things that he's trying at. I think Man City can punish you if you do that. So that's where I may just lean towards Odegaard. But I think Eze has an X factor. I don't think there are many bigger X factors. There are not many player profiles like Eberechi Eze right now in football. So he's a good X factor to have. Okay,
you pointed out that, you actually pointed out what we've heard recently, that Pep Guardiola has said that James Trafford will start between the six rather than Gianluigi Donnarumma. Now,
big call.
Then of course they call. Arteta will make his call. We'll know when he will make his call regarding whether it's Kepa or Raya, the two Spaniards, who's going to have that. Kepa has more experience, has more titles. Raya has more consistency and more reflexes.
He's a better goalkeeper.
Exactly. Truth. While we're on the same page, he's a better goalkeeper. But these are finals. Anything can happen. But apart from that, I think it's a given that Man City will field their strongest team. Haaland will lead the line if he's fit. Definitely, no doubt about that. Whether he's going to have Semenyo or Mamouche as a supporting attacker there is yet to be seen. But one of them may likely be on the bench. I don't see Mamouche and Semenyo starting the same game. But moving to Arsenal right now. Arsenal's first choice centre forward, because I'm moving to the forward line now. Centre forward is Gyökeres, Victor Gyökeres. But Arsenal's big game player, big game centre forward, false 9, but centre forward nonetheless, is Kai Havertz. he relishes a final against Manchester City. I mean, 2021 Champions League final. You know what we're talking about. So, what you are, Mikel Arteta, you have this option right now regarding just these two players. Let's leave the Kepa and Raya conundrum. Gyökeres, Havertz. Who do you start and why?
I'll go with my big man.
Big York.
Yeah.
Main.
I'll have to. The energy he brings to the Arsenal team, I think, is unparalleled. The way he occupies the CBs is going to be very necessary for the likes of Eze, Trossard, Saka to get into the game. So I always start with him, 60th, 65th minute. You come on with Havertz, who can obviously back a goal when tired legs have come in, because nobody presses like York. None of the three number 9s Arsenal have. Nobody presses like York. Even Havertz, that was known for pressing before, he doesn't press as good as Gyökeres. That's why Arteta starts Gyökeres almost every match, because that pressing he offers, that energy, even when he's not getting the ball, you can see him applying the energy to the opposing team. So I have to start with Gyökeres, then Havertz may come in later.
Finally, prediction. So you can't escape it. Just sharp so that we can move, we can tie up things.
I think it's the biggest 50-50 game I've ever seen. 1-1.
1-1.
I know it's a final, so I'm doing regular time. Regular time prediction.
1-1. Penalties, no shocker in the extra time.
In the extra time, I think a team wins it in the extra time. I cannot just put my hands on. I'm going to go with my gut here. I want Arsenal to win, but my gut is just telling me City may have something up their sleeve. But I'm going to go Arsenal. Let's go Arsenal.
Okay, so let's see how that plays out. All right, 2-1.
Yeah.
So he says 2-1. The last time Arsenal got to Wembley, it was the same scoreline, but it was against Antonio Conte's, Frank Lampard's Chelsea.
Super Frank.
Super Frank Lampard's Chelsea in 2020 final, a COVID final, but still a final nonetheless. Okay, so we wrap up things. We move straight from football to basketball, and NBA is going on, and I'll give you the results of some of the key games that played in the NBA. Earlier this morning, we had the Hornets beating Orlando Magic 130 to 111 points. Washington Wizards didn't have enough wizardry in their tank when they lost 95 points to 117 points against Detroit Pistons. Then the Chicago Bulls were bulldozed by the Cleveland Cavaliers, 115 points to 110 points. Miami Heat could not turn up the heat against LA Lakers when they lost 134 points to 126 points. Then the Pelicans were just too strong for the LA Clippers. They clipped their wings, 105 points to 99 points. Then San Antonio Spurs only just got over Phoenix Suns by 1 point. They beat them 101 to 100 points. Then Utah Jazz, let's not talk about Jazz here. Utah Jazz were just too strong for Milwaukee Bucks, and they beat them 128 points to 96 points. And then, of course, Sacramento Kings their royalty was diminished because the Philadelphia 76ers showed them who's boss by beating them 139 points to 118 points. That's the size of the package for today. We'll do this again tomorrow by 10:30 a.m. on the Afia Home of Sports. And I want to say a big thank you, KP, the talisman. Yeah, Big York. Let's know what a Big York will do, what he's meant to do. And then, of course, thank you very much. I want to appreciate everybody who's been behind the scenes there. We have a floor manager here, of course, Chris. Thank you very much, guys. Everybody who's been involved. Then in the MCR and PCR, of course, we have Victor and David. And then, of course, I think Chidera is somewhere around there. Thank you very much for what you do. In the MCR proper, Moxie. Yep, Moxie, that's you. Thank you very much for what you do. And every other person, whichever name I've not called, please, you understand, much love from here. We'll do this again by 10:30 a.m. tomorrow. But till then, remain blessed. I'm Sisi the Rabbi, signing out. Have a blessed weekend.
GGM.